So here's a bit of another, gaming vlog video. As you can see by the title, man, you gotta stop wasting your money on these sports games. I'm gonna tell you my point of view on those things, and hopefully for those that see this video, will understand, where I come from with this. Now, before I begin, I don't know what's going on with my internet, man. I do believe, right now, especially down in the South, it is rather difficult to stream, and a lot of internet connections are going out because, we got, that hurricane. So I think the state where I'm at, I think we're getting like the tail end of it. So I tried to stream twice for my dark playthrough of Detroit Becoming Human. I'm gonna wait until the skies are gonna be clear, because of right now, the weather for the this week has been shit. Next week is supposed to be nice weather, so it should be able to let me stream next week. So I'll pick back up Monday. You guys can expect that. So and for those that are wondering, how long will I be doing Detroit Becoming Human? I'm going to be doing 3 different playthroughs. Right now it's the darker playthrough, like more of a villainous playthrough. After that, I'm going to be doing a good playthrough to where everyone gets a happy ending. And then I want to do random events playthrough with it, because I'm really curious to see about certain things with all these different paths that we can take. And one of my experiments I want to do in the game, I want to see if it's possible to get Kara arrested by Connor. I want to know if that's possible. I love the Detroit Becoming Human. I like all the characters, but my favorite storyline has to be with Kara and the little girl. So you guys will be expecting Detroit Becoming Human with 3 different playthroughs at that. With that being said, let me go ahead and get on with the video. So the fascination with sports games, man, have most certainly been around since the 70s. They weren't known as 2K back then, so they came out in terms of the last 2 digits of the year. Myself personally, I'm a 90s child and early 2000s kid. My first, experience, with playing sports games was with Madden 95. And then with basketball, it was we're all familiar with the term 2K, but back then, again, you guys got to remember, they weren't known as 2K back then. So it was NBA, I think I had like 96 or 97. And them were the only 2 sports games I ever owned. I did play them. I wasn't the best at them, Um, there were some I played in terms of Nintendo wise, because the ones that I played were for the Sega. You know, then there are other ones I did play when it came to Nintendo. And my special ed teacher had a Nintendo for us during the free days, like Fridays, right? And two sports games that I can remember was, NBA 75 that had a young Magic Johnson before AIDS and Dr. J. And then NFL 87. Now, of course, you had your baseball games, your football, and your basketball, right? Now, some of us played the baseball ones. Now, me, I enjoyed playing the baseball ones when I was younger, because my favorite sport growing up, and even now, is baseball. And I always went out and played street baseball as a kid whenever I got the opportunity. Now, during the days of the PlayStation 1, or known as the PS1, the football games during that time, you had a lot of the Tennessee Titan ones that came out just about every year or so. Now, I stayed within Tennessee, so I remember the days of the Tennessee Titans when they were good. And I can say that, yes, I played one of the Madden games because of the Tennessee Titans. And again, I ain't good at football, man. I ain't good at the basketball either. So, like, I'm straight trash. Like, I am food in those games. I am food in real life when it came to those sports. But, I had my little bit of my fair share. And during the, PlayStation 2 days, man, is when that shit really took off. Because you had a lot of the new football games that were coming out, basketball as well, and even going back to the PlayStation 1, a lot of the main basketball games that did come out for the years of the PlayStation 1 were, if I remember, I think it was like a lot of Michael Jordan, I believe. Just like, I believe you had like the and I knew the Lakers did have a couple of them that came out. Then the PS1, Cleveland, I think. I know the Houston Rockets did. That I know. I believe also Miami Heat. Now, I never kept up with none of this stuff because I just, and this is when we get into my point of view of it. To me, buying sports games, man, are a waste of money. I understand the old terminology for most of us. I grew up a mixed black child. I grew up poor. I grew up in the hood as well. And I can say that, yeah, I understand, man, all we got is hoop dreams. Man, neither one of us wants to be a ball player, man. Nah. Because even though sports were around my life, they were never involved in my life. I decided not to get into sports. I couldn't get into sports growing up. If you wanted to play sports, you would go outside with your buddies and you would go get your partners, and that's what we did. We used to go get our partners, and we would get physically active, because there was a time where during the years before I was born, when these sports games were coming out, like, people played them, but they didn't play them. If you wanted to play a sport, you would go join that sport in school, or you would play like street ball, in terms of street football, street basketball, and street baseball with your homeboys, right? And you would get physical that way, and you may not be the best guru at it, but that's how one would play sports. The same thing during the eras that I was born and coming up in. During the Sega years and the PS1 years of my life. The sports games were there, but we weren't all that in tune with them, because there were other games out, that we did play. And if you wanted to play a sport, again, man, you would play for like the school or like the little league type of deal. But again, if you wanted to do the street ball stuff, again, man, you would go get your partners. And even though I wasn't in the best of health to even be playing sports, I did have my fair share of playing basketball, with terms of streetwise. When it came to that, I couldn't hit a basket to save my life. I was straight food, but at least I did do that. Football wise, man, because at that time we weren't allowed to really hit each other. So, a lot of us played flag football. And I enjoyed a good game of flag football back then. So I definitely got involved physically with that. Street baseball, that is a different story, because in order for us to want to play baseball, we would have to set up something at the playground, or go down, or have somebody take us to the park, because we couldn't just play baseball on the block in the hood, because one, we don't feel like fucking up people's cars, windows. We don't feel like getting the cops called on us, so we just didn't do it like that. If we were to, man, at times we had to hit the ball to a degree, and a lot of that time involved, man, somebody need to be down next to the gutter or in the gutter line to make sure that damn ball don't roll in the sewer. Because once that's it, that's a wrap. So, we would definitely get physically active with those sports rather than playing the games. I think during the times of the PS2 era, when it came to a lot of those sports games, man, everybody really thought they knew shit about sports. And it goes both ways, because you had those that would play, again, for like your little leagues, baseball, football, basketball. Then you would, play for the school in, your middle school years, high school years. And, one side of that coin, you got people who watch sports, who like sports, but don't play sports, who don't know really shit about sports. And then they consider themselves a guru at sports because they were playing the sports games. And then you had those that played the sports, but also played the games, which made no sense. Like, why do you want to play a game that you already playing, in real life? To me, it is a waste of money. I'm about to be 31 years old, and to me, man, you're not buying something new because you are buying the same thing repeatedly. To me, it is a waste of $80 every year on those games, because I understand, Kobe Bryant died, and no disrespect to anybody, no disrespect to the dead, but yeah, the brother died, but I can't feel no loss there. Man, people die every damn day. It is what it is, and I can't feel sympathy for somebody who I don't know with idol worshiping. That ain't me. So I'm good on that part when it comes to that. I understand, the new 2K1's coming out, and shit like that, and everybody wants the edited version with Kobe on there and stuff like that. I can personally say with this, man, 2K1 is the same game like NBA 75, right? It's the same thing every year because you're playing the same sport. It's the same teams. You get the same players. Over time, yes, you will get new players. That's one difference. And plus, you get, new music. That's the second difference. Then, new players and music. And, of course, the graphics. And then, yes, you also have where you can play live against other people. Them are the only difference, but they're very minor differences. But other than that, man, you're really buying the same game. Like, for example, let's go with, 2K010. It'd be the same thing that would come out in 2K15. Let's take 2K15. It's the same thing that's coming out now for 2K21. There's no real major differences except for the minor stuff that I have named. Other than that, there really wasn't it. I understand it was like 1 year where Jay-Z got involved with the 2K game 1 year, and he wanted to add, other rappers' music. He wanted to add like an underground artist's song on there. There was supposed to be some type of big reward with that, but no one really heard anything from that when it came out or who won. On top of that, Jay-Z wanted rappers in the game to be playable as sports players, and when people got that game, there were hardly any rappers or no rappers at all for anybody to play as. Like, the only reason why I was excited about the game It's because one of my favorite rappers was supposed to be in there. He was told he was going to be in there. They scanned him. He put out the image of himself in the game as a ball player, and that was ChEDDErTarY. Now, before ChEDDErTarY was rapping, one of his dreams, what he was doing to proceed, was to go to the big leagues when it came to playing ball. And I'm like, man, ChEDDErTary's gonna be in the game. Bruh, I gotta get that game for ChEDDErTarY, man. I want to play as ChEDDErTarry even though I suck at sports. But I'm glad I didn't get it, because one of my homeboys, from one of his other circles, like, man, one of my other homeboys got the game, and he's also a fan of ChEDDErTarry like you. And when he got the game, there were no rappers in the damn game. So Jay-Z made money off the 2K games for false promotion and false advertisement. I'm surprised he didn't get sued for that shit. I'm surprised no one really, got into an uproar about that. It's just like, when he got involved with one of the Madden games, he wanted to do the same shit. Except he wanted to do something with music in it, and by the time that came out, it didn't really go anywhere. So you got stuff like that where you got to be careful with as well. And a lot of this shit, man, really goes into the new era of slavery for black men. Sports and being given a jersey with numbers on them is a new form of slavery. We got to really stop buying into a lot of the propaganda in sports. I understand it's America's favorite pastime, but every time when we buy these games, we're just proving to the bad side of the world when it comes to racism that all they know is sports. I have heard conversations like that where people say, look at them monkeys. All they know is sports. Buying them out. They making tons of money off us in the black community buying these games, man. But it's just not also that. Again, when I was growing up, look, you weren't going to be inside the house, on your game system playing a sports game. No, you had to go outside and be physically active if you wanted to play a sport. Nowadays, a lot of people that no longer play sports, who had normal jobs, they get so stupefied, especially within the past, 9-8 years for them, 10 years at that, at the most, when these games come out. And especially now from the biggest one, which was 2K15, until now, a lot of them just got so, dumbified, like, oh man, it's coming out, and, a lot of people just fight over that game. A lot of people always hurt each other over that game, and it's not worth it, in my personal opinion, because again, you're wasting your money by buying the same recycled game every year. Just like when it comes to Jays, I've done a video about that called Why Jays or Jordans are a waste of money, and I will link that video at an end screen link video for this video, so that way, you guys can go ahead and just click on that video and watch it. And sad thing about that reality is, man, I should do an updated video for that, because it is an older one, but sadly, again, we get so brainwashed by these things that we thinking that, man, these things are going to be worth money. But the sad truth reality is, they're not, because there's so many of them. They're not going really worth nothing. They're only worth pennies. So, buying these games, wasting money that you could have put towards something else towards, I am glad, that I never grew up with sports, on sports, especially now, from what I see. That's why, I'm here to tell you guys now, you know, it ain't worth, wasting your guys' money on, man. I feel like now, with a lot of the newer generation, from like your 14-year-olds, especially those going into their very early 20s, have never played a sports a day in their lives, and just wasting their parents' money on this shit, and then thinking they sports experts. Sadly, it don't work that way. It don't. I would never buy somebody a sports game. Nope, not happening. If they want that sports game, they can get it themselves. Me, if I'm buying somebody any game, it's gonna be something that they ain't got, that I think they may like. The only sports game, in terms of anything basketball, that I did enjoy playing was Monstars. Or Monsters, it depends on which way you read it. This was for, I believe, the Sega back then, and I have the digital version. And what it is, it's these basketball characters, but they're molded off a lot of slasher, horror films from a bit of the 80s and 90s. So, for example, you got like people like your Jason, your Freddy, Scream, Chucky, Leatherface, Frankenstein, some of your horror monsters as, basketball players. And I think it's really, really creative. I know what's out now with a lot of these sports games. Oh, they got career mode to where you can build up your career in the campaign mode, I think it is. And even, outside of campaign mode. And problem is, man, we take that shit too fucking seriously, man. Every time something happens to the game, you gotta calm down, man, because honestly, if you ain't succeeding with something like that in real life, then you shouldn't throw a bitch fit over it on the game. It's just not worth it, man. It's fucking digital, dude. You can build back up what you have lost. And again, these are just my point of view on these sports games, and I just don't see what the big deal is about them, and I'm glad that I never wasted a dime from them. Because again, my thing is this, man, if you want to go out and play a sport, go out and play a sport. Go out and play a sport, man. You can't be sitting around on your ass all day playing a fucking game. You can't do it. You can't do it. I know I don't do it. Some of the sports that I was involved with, in terms of street terms, even though I wasn't the best health, even though I was a bit overweight, I did at least try. First one was basketball. I wasn't the best at it, and still not the best at it. Kickball, that I enjoyed. But when we played kickball, play kickball to hurt the other opponents. You know? Then next would be baseball. I enjoy baseball, man. I'm really good at baseball. I can hit a fucking damn ball like it ain't nothing. Ain't gotta worry about running to the damn bases, man. By the time I get to the home plate, the fucking ball's already coming back. It's like I'm that good. Next sport, would be flag football. So that's how I would get physically active then with those things. So to me, my thing is this, man. There's no need to get excited over the same game that's being recycled. Especially from the PS4 era. The PS4 era with these sports games are the same games that came out for the 360. They just been recycled and moved to the other console. And I guarantee you a lot of the PS4 games will be recycled and moved over to the PS5 when it comes out. Because you are, again, just wasting $80 that you could have put towards something else. And if you want to play a sport, go get your partners, go out and get physically active, man. See what you can really do. People talking that shit when it comes to these games, talking about, man, fuck you, man. You know what I'm saying? You can't touch me in this. Nah, man, I'm letting you know, man, bro. I can hit that shit. Look, man, that's digital, so it's gonna make it obviously easy to score them points. But let's see what one really has in real life sports, man. Go out to the park, pick a field somewhere, play that football, play that tackle, play that flag football. See what one really got. Go out to a basketball court, see what you could. Let's see if you can really shoot them shots. And I guarantee ain't none of the motherfuckers can either. None of them. I know a lot of people see this video going to be a bit heated, but you guys got to understand something, man. I come from a whole little bit of different generation, and sadly, some people in my generation fall victim of those games, man. They do. It ain't worth it. The last game I actually wasted money on was that Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, man. Like, that shit was fucking straight garbage, straight fucking trash. Because I know a lot of people are fans of the Xenoverse game. Some fans are a fan of the Kakarot game, but Dragon Ball is not an open world game. It's not an RPG game. When Dragon Ball Z started out, it's an arcade fighting game. Sadly, they never got released physically in terms of the American versions of those games during the Sega and the Game Boy years. I do have those games digitally, and they're an arcade fighting game like Mortal Kombat. Same thing when it came to the PS1. There were like one, maybe two Dragon Ball games, but they weren't the best then. Then you had the PS2 era with the Dragon Ball games, and they tried the RPG thing once earlier before that. It just wasn't the best. It wasn't hitting. Because, Dragon Ball is a arcade fighting game. It ain't meant to be RPG or open world. The idea of it sounds great, but the execution is very poorly. I believe there is a way to probably do it properly. But I think the way to do it properly, man, is to really mold it off the Grand Theft Auto styles. Even though it's Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball, with Dragon Ball GT, and some of Dragon Ball Super in there as well, as long with some of the movie characters. And then I truly believe, you take the concept of those, make it a GTA-S open world RPG style game, but Dragon Ball related. Don't have people do these puzzles, don't have people do these ranks or these power ups just to be able to move farther, get upgrades, because that shit is very fucking annoying. Nobody really likes those things. And that was one of the big negatives about Dragon Ball Kakarot. I believe it can be done right, but it just depends on the execution. And I think if Rockstar was to do something like that with the Dragon Ball franchise, like they do with the GTA franchise, I do believe it will be a better version of Dragon Ball Kakarot in terms of that when it comes to an RPG open-based world, because I have a feeling it will be done right by them. If you take a look at some of the Dragon Ball games that came out for the 360, they were arcade style except for Battle of Z, which was a very trash game in my opinion. A lot of people didn't like it. And the thing is now, a lot of games are becoming RPG open world, and that really came from the GTA games, man. Not every game can be open or RPG. Dragon Ball is not an RPG open-based game. It's an arcade game. And I think it should remain as such. The only game I can see being open-based world and RPG is the Star Wars games, because it makes sense. But with that being said, this is my point of view on sports games and why they're a waste of money. Hopefully you guys can hear me even with this, but one thing I will add to this video, I know it's a bit long, but it is a vlogging game video. The only time where we were to really allowed to play games, coming up, was if you are injured and you need to heal up, then you would play some games to pass the time. Or it was raining, and it also depends if it was snowing as well. So one would be definitely weather-wise, or if you couldn't really stay by yourself, so somebody had to watch you, and if they were also into games, you could definitely, do that as well. Or if there was like a big game coming out and you want to have a couple of you and your friends over for like a day, and everyone gets to play the game when it comes out, so that was one as well that could be accepted. And then the last one would definitely be what I consider sleepovers. So if it was like a sleepover, it would definitely be games as well. Other than that, you weren't just in the house playing games constantly like everyone is now. If you wanted to go out and play, you had to go outside in order to play. And again, this is just, a bit of my thoughts on how a lot of sports games are a waste of money, and of course a little bit more information about me when it comes to gaming. You know, I already did a video on my history with gaming and the stuff that, you know, I'm into and what I grew up with. But other than that, I'm out. Peace.